Angling clubs have been a fundamental part of my angling journey, and without them and their support of junior anglers when I was growing up, I think my life could have taken a very different path, and I may not even be here right now speaking to you. Last year, Harry and I made a video about club fishing, and it seemed to really strike a chord with a lot of you watching. So I thought this time I'd come back on my own without Harry to hinder me and visit another angling club and see what waters they have to offer. So here we are at NCB number 5 area fishing club. That's taken quite a few takes to get that right, I tell you now. And the club is based near Derby in Ilkeston. And this is the first one of their waters we've come to check out today. It's called Osborne's Pond. It's a beautiful, mature pool set in a country park. And other than that, I don't really know anything else about this lake at all. I don't know anything about the stock, I don't know what size fish it holds or the number of fish it holds, but we have seen quite a few fish cruising around. It's a lovely, warm, late summer's day. I think these fish are going to be well up for a floater. So let's get some kit out, get some floaters in and see if we can catch a carp. So I'm all rigged up, ready for action, and I thought I'd quickly run through my surface fishing setup with you. The rod I'm using is a Horizon X3 floater rod, and that's paired with an EOS 10,000 reel loaded with 15-pound surface mainline. If we come down to the business end, the float, that's one of the extra large bolt bubbles. This is pretty much the only size of the range that I use. I always use the extra large. It allows me to cast my rig beyond where the fish are feeding. You can fish these floats up to 100 yards plus range. So it allows me to cast well beyond where the fish are likely to be feeding and then slowly draw the rig back in place. That way you can almost sneak the hook bait in position without the carp even realizing it's been placed there. Another advantage of using the extra large size is it really does emphasize that bolt effect. The larger the float, the larger the surface area, the more resistance it creates when the fish tightens the hook link. So again, the extra large really does emphasize that bolt effect and it aids with hooking the fish. The hook link is 12-pound zig and floater, and that goes down to a size 10 zig and floater hook. I've got a small piece of silicone tube just over the eye of the hook there to ensure that the line exits nice and straight and doesn't narrow the gape at all, which could otherwise hinder the hooking potentials of the rig. You see there I've got the hair kicked out like halfway down the shank. It's kind of tied up KD style, so I whip down the shank, kick the hair out and then whip down below it. That way it allows me to position my hook bait really tight to the shank of the hook, much like it would be if I was gluing my hook baits on, which I'm not. I prefer to do it this way. Speaking of hook baits, these are my go-to surface hook baits and have been for probably, I don't know, 15 years, I think. I think I'm still using the same couple of bags I bought 15 years ago. It's the Sonu Baits oily floaters. And I just use them as hook baits. I don't use them as loose feed. They're very kind of fibrous. Is that a word, Kieran? Fibrous? Go with that. They're very kind of fibrous, but they do withstand lots of casting. They're quite tough, and I generally find they'll stay on the rig for about half an hour. So, you know, when you consider if you were to use a normal pellet or a dog biscuit, you're not going to get that sort of length of time out of a hook bait, but these do withstand lots of casts. You know you can leave the rig in situ and it's still attached to your hair. I do have other hook bait options with me, but these would always be my go-to. They've just served me so well over the past decade. I'd have complete confidence in fishing with one of them. go. Well, it actually took quite a while to get them fish feeding. It has been really, really warm today, and we are right at the back end of the summer. So these fish have had a whole summer, have been fished for on the top. They're a little bit cute at this time of year. They've kind of seen every trick in the book. But once I actually got the fish feeding properly, I think that was the first time there was a few fish feeding around the float. And this one made a mistake pretty quickly, actually. That's not a bad fish. Wow. I really have no idea as to the stock in this lake at all. So I didn't really know what to expect when I saw this fish pop up there. But yeah, he'll do nicely if we can get him in. He's not in the net yet. Right down those reeds. He's sort of in them now, but coming through. I'm not liking this. There you go, he's coming now. Hey, that was a bit tense. No, not back down there. He's being a dick. Here we go. There he is. Come on. Get in the net. I can't believe that. I can't believe that. Just as it was sliding over the net, it turned and it's gone off again. That is ridiculous. Right, come on. That's interesting. Okay. You need to kick yourself out of there. That's interesting.
Come on, shoes off, in you go.
Nah, you're alright. I can't feel anything pulling back. Go on, Kieran, get in.
In you go.
Pretty sure it's come off.
Only one way to find out.
Yep, pull for a break. What's it like in here? Proper? Huh?
I think it's alright.
You think?
This side is.
Huh?
This side is.
Yeah. Ugh. I don't even think it's still on.
We'll find out.
Right. Let's see what we can see. It's still on. Yeah, and there just chuck it. There he is. Right, this time. No. That's weird. Covered in flea things, whatever the hell they are that's in these reeds. Absolutely covered in them. Oh, these things are so itchy. Here he comes. This time, no messing about. Get in that net. Get in, yes. We've got him at last. God, that was an effort. I'm absolutely covered in whatever the hell all these little black things are on the reeds. The little flea things. God, right, I need to get out. I'm so itchy. Ah! Here's a 20 pounder. Well, I don't really know what I was expecting to catch when we arrived here, but I don't think I was expecting to catch that. Got a lovely dark mirror of around probably about 22 pounds, maybe it's even a little bit bigger actually. You give me a proper run around and looking at the size of that tail, you can see why. I'm absolutely over the moon with that. That was the first time the fish had actually really started feeding properly. Just made a cast just past where the fish were feeding, slowly pulled the bolt bubble into the feeding fish. 2 minutes later it was off and we got this. Happy days. He's off, and so are we, because this club has more venues that we want to check out, including one which sounds really exciting. We've been told stories about really jet black scaly mirrors. It sounds amazing, and that's where we're going to next. So we're at the next venue now. This is Manor Floods. It's again a really beautiful, mature, small pool. I'm guessing it's about 3 acres in size, something like that. Shallow, weedy. Seen quite a few fish cruising around, but the weed is kind of, the depth appears to only about 3 foot deep, and the weed tends to be 18 inches off the bottom in most of the lake. So I've had a little bit of a lead around on one rod. I'm not feeling any drop or anything, it's so shallow. But there's areas where the lead is coming out of the weed a lot more freely. I can see sort of clear areas, although the light is fading rapidly now, so it's really hard to see. But I'm fine just fishing on the areas where the weed is relatively thin. I think the really obvious glowing clear spots, I think they're going to be viewed with a lot more caution. I think those are the sort of spots a lot of people are going to be fishing anyway. But also, I think they're going to get a lot more swan attention as well. Yeah, there is a family of swans on here, and I think if I fish those clear spots, I think I'm just going to wake up at first light getting absolutely rinsed by the swans. So yeah, I'm quite happy to fish on the areas of the light weed. I'm just going to tie up 3 HingeStiff rigs on a long boom. I think if we do get anything, it's going to be at first light, and if we haven't received any action by first light, then I do think the fish will give themselves away where they need to be. So as far as I'm concerned, having the rods in the water tonight is more of an advantage time-wise. The fact I'm here, ready for first light, to be able to formulate a better plan and a better line of attack then, if that makes sense. Did that make sense?
It does make sense.
There we go. So yeah, not really expecting anything to happen tonight, but it puts me in really good stead for the morning, where I'm sure we'll see fish at first light, and then I'll be able to formulate a better plan of attack then. Okay, I had a little bit of a feel around out there, found an area where the weed is lighter. When I reel the lead in, there's only a little bit of weed over the hook itself. All I'm going to do now is just cast back out to where I've clipped up. I was having a little bit of a drop as well there, which is nice. I'm just going to catapult a few pouchfuls of bait over the top of that rig. Right, that's that rod all set. The light is fading rapidly here. I think the other two rods are going to go out in the dark. I'm just going to cast around, have a bit of a feel around, put them in the clip, spread some bait over the general area, and yeah, fingers crossed something happens. Couldn't see him.
Nah, lad.
That lad could not see that lad. Well, good morning. So those two remaining rods did go out in the dark last night. I just fished them on single hook baits. Just cast to an area where the lead didn't plug in as much, so just over the lighter weed. And one of those rods produced a fish last night, but it was a tension, so that doesn't really count. But yeah, since then I have had a couple of recasts this morning to areas where I've seen fish not feeding but sort of cruising around just under the surface, and there's a few pouchfuls of bait over the top. And yeah, we're going to give it another few hours really. We do have another water that we'd like to visit, so we can't stay too long here, but yeah, it's warming up. I do think there could be another chance of some floater action today. But yeah, we've got 2 or 3 hours before we have to leave here. So fingers crossed we can put a fish on the bank before we have to leave. So this is my variation of the HingeStiff Rig. It's tied using the doubled over section of the 30-pound rigidity. For me, this stiff section really does want to be super stiff, and tying it in this manner, it's almost acting like an extension of the hook. It's so difficult for the carp to deal with. Once they suck that hook bait in, it's so hard for them to eject. And although it might look quite fiddly, it's actually really easy to tie. So first up, how we tie it, we start off with a doubled over section of the 30-pound rigidity. I know there's lots of stiff rig materials on the market, but for me this is the stiffest one that I have found. And like I just said before, for me the stiffer the better. So I'm using the 30-pound version here. You can see how the line has already kind of formed a natural curve where it's being stored on the spool. So we double over the line and then thread the 2 tag ends through a micro hook ring swivel. Next we thread on a size 4 stiff rig beaked point hook. Next we pass the hook through the loop that we've created and pull it all down tight. Next up we tie on a size 11 ring swivel. This is done with a simple 1-turn blood knot. Now because this 30-pound rigidity is so stiff, a 1-turn blood knot is all that is needed to secure the ring swivel in place. It is so super stiff. Once you tighten that down, it will not come undone. So I pull down tight with my hands to begin with, and then finish off with a pair of puller tools, pulling as tight as you can to really secure that knot in place. Next we push the line back through the eye of the hook to create our D section, where the hook bait will have lots of free movement. The hook bait I'm using in this instance is a yellow Carp Freaks pop-up, and this is attached simply by threading bait floss through the micro hook ring swivel, attaching the pop-up, pull the barrel of the swivel into the hook bait, trim off the tag end, and burn and blob with a lighter. Now we want to add a small amount of putty to balance our hook bait. Just roll the putty into a little ball and mould it round the knot on the swivel. That will secure the putty in place, and you want to set it so that hook bait only just to say sinks. That way it'll come to rest over the weed that we're going to be fishing over. Now we want to attach our boom section. Here I'm using about 14 inches of the Cortex Soft. I just tie a simple overhand loop to the ring swivel. I tie a slightly longer loop at the other end. This allows me to quick change the rig should I need to. And that's it. There's our finished rig. You can see how it sits absolutely perfectly over that weed. I'm just going to catapult a few pouchfuls of bait over the top. Some of those baits may sink into the weed, but a lot of them are still going to be visible and will still attract the carp into the area. So that's it. That's our finished rig. And as you can see, it sits absolutely perfectly over that weed. I think this is a much more effective presentation than a naked chod, which I think a lot of people do seem to use in these weedy situations. For me, the naked chod just has too much free movement before the fish feels the force of the lead, and also before that lead actually does its job in hooking the fish. Here, using a long boom section and a lead clip arrangement, the hook bait is still presented beautifully over the top of the weed, but once the fish picks up that hook bait, it's in almost direct contact to the lead, which really helps with obviously the hooking potential of the rig. So that's why I would always choose this rig over a naked chod. Well, it's mid-morning and nothing else has happened. It was a bit of a risk really coming here. The pool itself, I think I said last night it was about 3 acres. It's not. Having walked around it in daylight, it's almost twice that size, I think. And it holds around 60 carp, so it's low-ish stock. So turning up just as it was getting dark and only managing to get one rod on a nice area and a little bit of bait around it, 2 rods kind of pub chucked in areas where the weed felt a bit lighter with single hook bait. It probably wasn't the best approach. This pool holds some absolute gems. I've seen photos of lovely scaly fish, and it would have been fantastic to be able to put more time and effort into this one and put one of those fish on the bank, but it's actually looking quite good now. The wind's picked up, we've got a lovely ripple across the water. It looks quite good for a bite, but this club has more venues that I would love to check out. So I'm going to reel in the rods, get the kit in the van, hit the road, and I'll see you at the next venue. Well, here we are at another beautiful mature water that this club has to offer. This is Loscoe Dam, and it's only about 10 minutes from Manor floods where we've just left. I don't really know a great deal about the lake, if I'm honest. I have been told it's very, very silty, and you can see that straight away. The water's really coloured. So I think I'm going to start off using the same rigs I was over on Manor floods. More out of laziness than anything else, because right now I just really want to get fishing. So let's get the rods out the bag, get some bait on and get cracking.
Oh, okay. No chance.
Well, that was a bit crazy. I just flicked out 2 rods with the exact same rigs I was using over at Manor Floods. Flicked out 2 rigs towards this snaggy tree here. Started catapulting bait over both the rods. As I'm catapulting out bait, the swirls, you can see tails waving. Like as I'm catapulting out the bait, they're almost taking it on the drop. I bet it's only, well, I'm not even getting a drop. I bet it's only a couple of feet deep, something like that out there. And then already, where I've just catapulted bait, I can see fizzing, I can see tails, I can see swirls. Yeah, this rod had been in the water about 2 or 3 minutes, I think. And we're playing a fish. He's about to go in the net. There he comes. There he is. We got him. Net stuck on something. It's that shallow down there. The mesh was all caught on something. There we go. Not a bad start, is it? And the crazy thing is, it's 30 degrees, absolutely baking. You think there's no chance of getting a bite on the bottom when it's this hot, but when it's only a couple of feet deep, you know, it's not far for them fish to drop down on the bottom. And they obviously wanted some food. Never seen that before. I've been catapulting out bait, and within seconds of the bait landing, there's just tails and swirls where they're rooting around, eating it straight away. That is crazy. Right, let's get the unhooking mat out and have a look. Well, this fish has just unhooked itself in the net. That's the rig, exactly the same rig I was using on Manor Floods. We've got a HingeStiff, quite a long chod section there, quite a high chod section, and a yellow Carp Freaks pop-up. That's what did the biz. I've just had a look at this fish. He's probably only around 8-9 pounds, something like that. And the fish in here go to 27-28 pound. So I'm just gonna slip him back right now, and hopefully we can get into those bigger ones. Yeah. Come on. There he goes. Right. Hopefully the next one will be a bit bigger. Well, I know I've just caught a fish on the HingeStiff rig there, but I am having a bit of a change of tactics, change of rig. On silty waters like this, I've never been a big fan of fishing with pop-ups. I know I've just caught a fish, but the fish were feeding in such a crazy way. I think it more or less took it on the drop. But on silty waters, I do think those fish tend to feed really hard on and in the silt itself. And if you're fishing with a pop-up, even if it's a low one, just popped up an inch, I think that might be a couple of inches higher than what the fish are actually feeding at. The lake bed here is so soft, and those baits that I'm sticking out there, you know, they may be sort of resting actually in that surface layer of silt. They won't be necessarily presented on top of it. They may be sort of coming to rest actually in that layer of silt. And yeah, when the fish are feeding down, picking up food items in that surface layer of silt, you know, a light critically balanced pop-up pops up an inch above it, can often be ignored. So I'm changing over to a wafter presentation. I'm just using a Match the Hatch Pro Stim Liver airball wafter. I've actually tied that up on a Ronnie rig. I know this rig is often associated with fishing pop-ups, but I find it works really well fishing with bottom baits and wafters too. And that's tied on a size 5 medium curve hook. I have recently switched over to the wide gape long shank, but it just so happens I've got loads of medium curves tied up in a size 5. This was my go-to presentation before the wide gape long shank. It's still an excellent pattern of hook, it really is. And I do feel like there's a chance of quite a few fish here. And seeing as I've got a load of these size 5 medium curves already pre-tied, I'm going to use them. Yes, it's a little bit lazy, but like I said, it's a great pattern of hook, and hook holds were always absolutely fantastic. So that's what I'm just about to tie up right now. The hook link I'm using for the boom section is the new Cortex Soft from the Naturals range. This is the 25-pound version. So I'm going to tie this up about 14 inches. So there you go, that's the finished rig. You'll notice the colour of the hook link, it's a really dark green, so dark it's almost bordering on black. And that's absolutely perfect for the lake bed we're fishing over today. That will blend in absolutely spot on. So with that being said, let's get it back out there and try and put another fish on the bank. We're in again. Just got busy with the throwing stick there. Once again, it was just a mass of swirls and boils and mud clouds coming up, tails waving out the water, practically taking the bait on the drop, crazy. And I switched both rods over to the wafter from the HingeStiff Rig and the yellow pop-ups. So yeah, match the hatch wafter, and again this rod was in the water maybe 2 or 3 minutes, I think. To say it's been so warm today, it's been 30 degrees, no wind at all. The sun's just gone behind a cloud now actually for the first time of day, which is a relief. But to be catching fish this quick in conditions as poor as this, it's very unexpected and very welcome as well. Not sure I will keep the rods in the water overnight though. I'm not gonna.
We'll see about that, won't we?
Well, we will see about that. I'm not Tom Maker. All night on it. It'll get to about 10 o'clock. I'm like, yep, that's a time for a hot chocolate and bed.
Hot chocolate?
Well, maybe not hot chocolate today. Well, a Madri and bed. Here he comes. It's a mirror this time. First one was a common. Now we've got a mirror. Yay! In the bag. There we go. What have we got? What have we got? It's that silty and murky, I can't see. We've got a proper old gnarly one. That's a character fish in miniature. I like him. He's a cool little thing. I think we need to have a look at him. Proper prehistoric looking creature, that one. Right, before we do take him out of the water and have a quick look at him, I'm just going to get some more bait on there, keep them on it. The more fish I catch now, the earlier I can reel the rods in and go to bed. That's what I'm thinking, Kieran. Kieran's nodding in agreement. I'm not saying I'm not enjoying it. I am enjoying it. It's great fun. I love it.
And as you say, more fish makes a better film.
More fish makes a better film. But then there comes a point where too many fish is overkill. No one wants to see someone getting woke up at night, staggering to the rods, playing the fish. It's dark, they can't see anything, it doesn't matter.
I mean, Tom's videos do pretty good.
Yeah, doesn't matter, just no need. No one needs to catch that many fish. Except for Bob Nudd.
He does.
Exactly.
Actual legend.
Yeah. I'm no Bob Nudd. No.
Definitely not.
No.
He wears better hats than you.
He's got a fine collection of white hats. Does he still wear white hats?
Yeah.
Okay, legend.
Surprised you don't follow his Facebook.
I do, of course I do. Genuinely, look at that. Look at that. They're literally fighting each other over the bait going in. Like you see them on the, like you see them when they're going crazy on the surface, when they're Pac-Man in and like almost shoulder barging each other out the way. It's like that, but on the bottom. Right. There we go. Right. No, one more. Last one. Then we'll have a look at this fish in the net. Last one. Then we'll, there you go.
Should we have a look at that fish?
Right. Let's have a look at this gnarly old warrior. Well, you can see why this one was loving the bait. He is really lean, but it's a proper cool old dinosaur. Look at that. This one's got a few stories to tell, I think is what they say with a fish like this. Oh, we are away on the other rod as well. Right, I'm going to slip this one back really quickly because we've got a fish on the other rod. Right, slip this one back. There you go, mate. He's gone, this rod's away. Bit of carnage in it. Yeah, definitely. Beauty, of course, with a throwing stick is, of course, you can feed one-handed. Keep the bait going in. One. This one might be a bit bigger. They do go up to 27, 28 pound in here. There's some nice fish to be caught. This one looks a little bit bigger as well. If you keep that bait going in, you're going to attract the attention to the bigger fish. It is a bigger fish as well, that. It is a bigger fish. Yeah, I've gone all serious now. It's a common. Nice looking fish. Oh, the net's stuck on the bottom, it's so shallow. You can't get the net on there. Oh, it's stuck on a rock or something, the net. What's it stuck on? Get off. There we go, get in that net. In that net. Yes! That's a better one. There we go, that's a better fish. He's probably around 18 pounds, something like that. And this has been absolutely crazy fishing. I don't think I've ever been anywhere where I'm sticking out boilies and the fish are just competing for them as they're landing. There's tails waving out the water, there's swirls on the surface. Absolutely crazy fishing. Got no rods in the water, but it's been brilliant. Absolutely loved it. This is one of the bigger fish that I've seen cruising around in the area. So yeah, really chuffed to have caught this one. But I'm going to slip him back, get some more bait in, get the rods back in, and hopefully get a couple more. Well, I've just run out of my pre-tied Ronnie rigs, tied using the medium curve hooks. So I've just tied up a fresh Ronnie using my favourite pattern of hook, which is the wide gape long shank. This is what I would have been using from the start, but I was so eager to get fishing and I had loads of the medium curves already tied up with Ronnie, so I thought I might as well use them. But here we go. This would be my go-to setup when I'm fishing with a Ronnie rig. So first up, we take a size 6 wide gape long shank hook and thread on our tungsten kicker. We then attach the hook to a quick change swivel and thread the kicker over the swivel to secure the hook in place. Next, we thread on a micro hook ring swivel, followed by a micro hook bead. Next, we attach our hook bait. I'm using a Pro Stim Liver airball wafter, which I'm flossing and blobbing to secure the hook bait in place. Next, we attach our hook link. Here I'm using the 25-pound Cortex Soft from the Naturals range. I just tie a simple overhand loop on one end and a longer loop on the other end, which allows me to quick change the hook link should I need to change the boom section. The tag ends are trimmed and blobbed with a lighter. This is more for making the rig look neat and tidy rather than serving any actual purpose. But there you go, that's our finished rig. It looks fantastic, it is super effective, and it couldn't be easier to tie. Well, we're in again. Seems to be one rod more than the other that's doing the bulk of the bites. Not a bad fish, that one. Over this side. Come on, in you go. There. And there we are. I don't know what number that is. Oh, it's another one. Anyway. There he is. Probably, oh, I don't know, about 12 pound, something like that. Anyway, let's get him on the mat, have a quick look at him. There you go, look at the lips on that one, proper old rubber lips. There's such greedy fish here. It just seems the more bait I put in, the more bites I'm getting. And yeah, it's a struggle to keep the rod in the water. In fact, that one isn't going back out actually, because right now we're about to have a barbecue. And I like to have my burgers with as little disturbance as possible. Right, let's slip him back. Was it? Well, we've just had a really nice barbecue, and again the rod was in a bit longer this time, probably all of 5 minutes, and it's rattled off with another fish. As I came onto the stage and to pick up the rod, a spook fish just around the platform here. There must be so many carp in this lake, it's crazy. What does that keep getting stuck on down there? Probably a carp. There he is. Yay, another one in the bag. There we go, get in that net, bush. I haven't done one of them for a while, have I? Ah, there you go. And a bad one. Well, here we are, we've got another really lean fighting machine. They put up a proper scrap in this shallow water. And it really has been awesome fun. Never fished a place quite like it. As soon as you get that rod out there and get the bait in, the fish just get straight on it. I bet this would make an incredible winter venue, to somewhere to come and get a few bites when it's cold. And as much as I'm absolutely loving this fishing right now, I don't really want to be staying awake all night, sticking bait in, keeping the fish coming. So what I'm gonna do, I'm going to reel the rods in for the night, but I'm going to get up at first light, get straight back on it, get some bait in the swim again, get those fish feeding and competing for food, and hopefully in the morning we can pick up where we've left off. Well, good morning. It isn't quite first light. I said I was going to get up at first light and get busy. I had a bit of a lie-in. I have to be honest. But I've just been sticking out some baits with the throwing stick, just continually just be pinging baits in. And I was doing that until I saw signs that fish were back in the area. It's kind of like matchman's tactics really, where you just constantly feeding just to try and build up a feeding frenzy. And I do think the noise of them baits plopping on the surface was attracting fish into the area, because after about 5 minutes, that's when I saw the first like boil on the surface and a tail sort of waving around, sticking up just out of the water. And yeah, just looking behind me there, I can see a few little boils. Fish was just head and shouldered there as well. So yeah, they are there and they are back on it. Just gonna get the rods back out there and just continually ping baits over the top until one of them rattles off. Right, slurp of tea first, then on it. On it. And again, another swell. Look at that tail waving around. So it just seems that constant pinging bait over the rods is the way. Just like ringing a dinner bell for these fish. As I'm pinging in bait there, there's just fish swirling and tails waving out the water. It's crazy scenes. And we're playing another fish. I don't even feel like I'm fishing it in its most efficient way as well. I think if you have to fish like a method feeder as well and still incorporate the pinging bait over the top, I think you'd get even quicker bites than what I'm getting at the moment. Yeah, I think like a match angler proper geared up for this type of fishing would have an absolute field day.
And you can get all your match fishing gear over it.
When I mean match, I mean carp match, by the way. I meant carp match angler. But when I said match angler, you immediately thought.
So if Harry was here,
yeah,
he'd outfish you.
Harry would try a lot harder than I would in this situation. I think.
I think he just said he'd outfish you.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd say these. Yes, in the net. I'd say these size fish are more what Harry's used to catching than I am. I would say. I'm not saying the fish are small, that's not what I'm meaning. You're thinking that, that's not what I said.
I'm not thinking anything.
But I think these sort of size fish and this type of fishing is definitely more akin to what Harry's used to, I would say.
I feel like you're trying to worm your way back out of that.
No, I've just paid him a massive compliment. Harry's great at catching small fish on heavily stocked waters.
We'll leave it there.
That's a good thing. What?
Nothing.
You're looking at me like I've just said something bad.
Nothing.
Proper mugged him off there, haven't I? Shall we have a look at him?
Let's have a look at it.
Although I'm catching plenty of fish here, I do feel like there's more fish to be had as well. I think if I was, oh, he's so lively. I think if I was fishing with like beefed up match tactics with either a method feeder or a pellet waggler and just pinging bait constantly over the top, I think it'd absolutely bag up here. Right, let's get him back. Well, I can't seem to keep a rod in the water right now. I'm just about to recast that rod that I just caught that last fish on. And while that rod was still in my hand, the remaining rod in the water has just rattled off. Yeah, I'm thinking, is this one a bigger fish? I don't know. This one put up a good account of itself. I thought that was much bigger than he is. Go on, get in. There we go, another one in the bag. There we go. Well, he may not be the biggest carp I've caught this session, but he's going to be the last, because as enjoyable as this has been, and this has been so much fun, there is another water that this club has to offer, and I believe it's the jewel in the crown. It's a very, very special venue steeped in carp fishing history, and I really want to check it out before it's time for us to go. So I'm going to slip this fish back, I'll get packed up, and I'll see you at the next venue. Well, this is Mapley Reservoir, and it's a place that is cemented in carp fishing history. On July the 24th, 1930, Albert Buckley caught the then British record carp from Mapley Reservoir, and it weighed 26 pounds. On that day, he also caught 2 monster roach weighing 2 pound 12 ounce and 3 pound 6 ounce, and it really put Mapley Reservoir on the map, not just in terms for carp fishing, but fishing in general. The carp record stood for over 20 years, and it wasn't until Redmire days before the record was finally broken. Now, for someone like myself who is really passionate about the history of carp fishing, you can really sense that history just being studied without even putting a rod in the water. And I would dearly love to fish this place. The reason we haven't done it on this occasion is I feel a place like this really warrants a lot more time and appreciation than we could have given it on this video. We wanted to sample other venues that this club has to offer, and if we'd have come here, it may have just been for a few hours, and that's not what I want. I would dearly love to come back to here, and it would be amazing to catch a carp from such a historic venue. Well, I think we managed to cram in a lot there in less than 48 hours. We visited 3 fantastic venues. Shame we weren't able to put a fish on the bank from Manor floods, but I think we should have really put in a little bit more time on that venue. But still, we've caught some fantastic fish, and I got to visit a lake that's absolutely steeped in carp fishing history. So yeah, a very memorable trip for me. And although I didn't get to fish Mapley Reservoir on this occasion, it gives me the opportunity to do so in the future. So like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you next time.